first of all, I think it's really important to walk before you run.
Welcome back to myArbitration. Today we have with us the Secretary General of ICSID herself. Thank you so much for being with us today.
Hi.
You have a textbook career and you're an idol to many. Maybe can you share a little bit with us how you came to where you are today?
It's very nice of you to say that. I started as a counsel in the Canadian government doing domestic litigation and then moved into international world, and it was at a time when NAFTA was starting and we were having our first NAFTA cases and the first investor state cases that in many respects created a lot of controversy because it was all so new. So I had a really wonderful chance to learn it from the very beginning and did that for 10 years. And then the position came open at the World Bank to be Secretary General, and I put my name in the hat and was very fortunate that I was selected. So I've been in Washington at ICSID since 2009.
That is very impressive. Anything you would have done differently?
It's a really interesting question. Sometimes I think I stayed in one place too long. On the other hand, I was always so happy at the place I was at. I don't really regret it. Maybe I just wish there were more time to do more things, but no huge regrets that I do hugely differently.
Well, you've seen a lot of development over the years, I'm sure. What can you say about how diversity has been affected and has been changing over the years?
Diversity has changed so much over the years, and even just in my career and my lifetime in investor state. And this is one of the things that we've been looking at a lot at ICSID. Literally as recently as maybe 2005, about under 5% of the arbitrators were female. And I think the statistics were even worse for people from various regions. And the other diversity criteria we look at, which might not be obvious, but it's new people, bringing new people into the profession. So we started to make a lot of efforts to just try and bring people in. And one of the things that's I think been the most important is actually giving people exposure. So it's not necessarily you're going to be this arbitrator, it's giving them exposure in front of the arbitration community so they will be selected by counsel as arbitrators, or so they will have opportunity to give speeches or write, or just kind of to get more into the milieu, and then everything builds for them.
And how are you giving people exposure? How's that done?
A number of things. We've got a wonderful law review. We do a huge number of conferences. We do a lot of technical assistance with states, so it's good to bring people in front of states, especially in their own home state. Frequently, government officials don't necessarily know who are their own nationals who really know this, so trying to bring them all together. And then we've done a lot of work with arbitration tribunals, and we've got a new system where we put forward a list of sort of 5 to 7 people as suggestions to counsel. And one of the really interesting things I've found is even where people are not selected from that list, I later see sort of 2 months later, 4 months later, their name being selected by a counsel. So there really is something to having the name out there in the universe, getting that visibility, and that helps build the career. So,
do you find it is easier to help the visibility of men than it is of women?
It's a good question. I don't think about visibility of men except in terms of the newcomers.
Right.
And there I try to be sort of gender blind if it's possible. I have a son, so I'm very conscious that I can't be all sort of get those women into those positions, but you know, women are so underrepresented that it is an important stress. And you know, we're now up to about 30-35%, so not 50%, which you would think would make sense, but that is a huge increase in a short time.
And do you think 50% is possible, or could there even be more women than men?
Absolutely. 50% is possible, even beyond 50%. When you look at it, a lot of law schools are seeing now that the incoming students are more than 50% female. So,
or judges are oftentimes women.
Exactly.
Yeah. So is that a goal?
Moving in that direction. I'm not going to be too inflexible, but moving in that direction is the right thing.
What advice would you give to female counsel who want to establish themselves as arbitrators? How can they get the visibility and the credibility and the backing for people to take them seriously, or countries to appoint them?
That's right, exactly. And countries is a good point, especially in the investor state domain. First of all, I think it's really important to walk before you run. In other words, you need to get the expertise, you need to get the experience. So spend some time as counsel learning the discipline. I know sometimes people will say they want to be an arbitrator, but you can't jump over that first step. So that's the first thing. Second thing really is just introducing yourself to these people. I know most government officials who aren't sort of out in the legal world per se, or not in the same council world that we're all working in, are actually thrilled to know there are these people and thrilled to have expertise. I often say sort of volunteer to do something, volunteer to do a program, volunteer to do a lecture, volunteer to pull together case law on something, but just sort of get them to know your name and your capability.
When you look back on your own career, what was the most challenging, the most daunting step that you took, where you were thinking you're not sure if you can really do it? Because I feel like, I assume you too. A lot of us lawyers, feel like they're with the typical imposter syndrome. Everything is very complicated, very difficult, and they're never good enough for anything that they look up to, and they just have to be courageous and do things scared, even though they're scared.
That's exactly. I still every day question myself on all these things, and was that a stupid thing to do or say or whatever? So unfortunately it never goes away, but maybe it gets a little bit less.
Breaking through here. I was waiting for that point.
No. So I'm still waiting for that point too. I think the scariest thing, frankly, that I ever did was to take the job as Secretary General. When I did that, I had a wonderful career in Canada. I'm Canadian. I'd lived there all my life, and there was a lot of discussion. There were articles saying ICSID at a crossroads, and will it be able to succeed? So that was very scary for me, and I can tell you, for about the first year, I had many nights when I thought, oh, did I make a mistake? Can I go home? But slowly and surely, and with a fantastic staff, they're just fabulous. We have made all sorts of changes and forward movement, and I feel really proud of where we're at right now. So it worked, despite the imposter syndrome.
What role did mentors play in your career? Did you have someone that you want to mention as someone who really helped you in your career, inspired you, supported you, encouraged you?
One of the things I always say is have many mentors. I think we often all think of one mentor, and that's nice if you can find someone like that, but I always say have many mentors, and mentors in different aspects of your life. I had a wonderful mentor when I was at the Department of Justice, and at the point I was a new mom. She was the mom of 3 kids, and we were doing some very big, complicated cases together, and just even her attitude, like, we can do it. And she was an incredible mentor throughout my life. I've met a number of people in the arbitration community in different aspects who become mentors. So my advice always to younger people is as many people as you can, because they all put something into the mix, and don't be scared to ask someone to be a mentor. I mean,
you might get a lot of requests after this,
which is great, and I've had that before, and it's great. I have a number of people we have a conversation every 4 months or something like that, but it's great. So yes, it's important, and people are happy and flattered to be asked to be mentors. So
that's a very lovely notion. Thank you for sharing all of that, and thank you for being here with us today.
It's delightful to chat.
Thank you.
Take care.